So if I've done my work, I won't get triggered anymore, right?
So, welcome to our Defining Healed series. And let's talk about what triggered even means because I feel like that word gets used a lot. And so when we are talking about triggered, we're talking about not just the difficult emotions that come up when you're reminded of a difficult experience that you've been through, which we talked about that in the last video, dealing with difficult emotions, but it's also that physical reaction that you get when your body's threat response system goes into overdrive.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about when we say the word trigger, right? And so like you pointed out or asked at the beginning, a lot of times people feel like, okay, if I go through therapy, I've done all my work, I've done my grieving,
Good.
then I won't get triggered anymore. I won't have those bodily physical reactions of like, there is a threat here anymore. And that's unfortunately not true. Okay. But there is hope, right?
Yeah.
There are things that are very different on the other side of doing your work, on the other side of therapy when you get triggered. So it's not that you're never going to get triggered, but you will. But recovery time shrinks, right? So instead of getting triggered and then now you are like destroyed for the rest of the day, the rest of the week, even the rest of the month, your recovery time really starts to shrink because you know what to do. You know how to respond when you feel those physical signs of a threat. All right. You move through it differently. Like I said, you know what to do. So you have the tools that you've gained from therapy. You know how to respond. Your mantra is slow,
Slow down.
slowing down. You know that you need to slow down. You need to pay attention to what's happening.
I think a big thing that I always tell people, I like using the example of is before therapy, when you get triggered, your story kind of it's like this thing that's hooked you and it kind of drags you all over. You're not really in charge. You're not in control. Your story is dictating it. After you go through therapy and a grief process and a journey, now you get more in the driver's seat of, or do you get triggered? Yes, I mean that's the point of this, right? We're just being honest. It's not like you're going through the rest of your life, everything's honky dory. But you're no longer getting dragged around like behind like a freight train. It's okay, I got activated, triggered. What do I need to do? What do I need to access in my toolbox here to allow myself to work through whatever happened, whatever conversations I may need to have, boundaries, whatever it is, and I can now work through it. And to your point, I can now knock that down to maybe a couple hours or a day of being, knocked off my posts, as opposed to me. It used to take me weeks. So to get down to the point of hours, to me, feels like,
It's beautiful. And I think one thing that's really helpful to remember is that on the other side of healing, you don't have to avoid getting triggered. You don't have to run away from it and frame your whole life around, I can't ever let myself get triggered because that's a problem. No, not that you're going to be reckless and just go into situations that you have no business being in, but you will be able to live your life and you're able to use that triggered state. The moment you start to feel those physical symptoms, it becomes a moment to slow down and be curious. Be curious and explore, all right, what's really happening here? Is there an actual threat, or is this just my brain picking up on signals that remind it of a threat, right? And if there is something here that is not okay, then what boundaries do I need to set up to protect myself? What am I willing to do or not willing to do that I need to kind of establish and abide by in order to not betray myself, right? So triggers become an opportunity.
love your word, curiosity.
Yeah, it becomes an opportunity to be curious, to learn more about yourself, and to activate the things that you've learned instead of this experience that just kind of like comes and assaults you, and now I have no control over it, and now I'm down for the count for God knows how long, right? So what does that look like in real life?
Well, Andrea gave the last example in our other videos, so now it's on me. So my birthday was about 3 days ago. Turned 40. And on my actual birthday day, it was a Monday, Andrea cooked me a dinner. she made chicken parmigiana, penny vodka sauce, and hopefully I'm not forgetting anything. But that was what I'm remembering right now.
Broccoli, but
Broccoli.
I can see where that's forgettable.
Meat and potatoes guy. But anyway, my point is, you would be like, why is that triggering? Well, it wasn't that. It was when Andrea cooks and finishes cooking, she leaves the kitchen, like every device had to be used for everything. And it's just everything is a mess. And growing up in my house, that was a huge no-no when I was a little too. And so to me, also, I came in with this expectation that I wasn't going to have to do any dishes. It's my birthday. Why would I have to clean up on my day? Like this shouldn't be, because I generally do a lot of cooking and that stuff during our normal life. And so I didn't want to leave it overnight because I don't like that.
Which was my plan, by the way. It was to leave it overnight.
Well, this is
and
where
handle it the next day.
This is where we're getting to, where in the past that would activate me, right? It'd be that little boy inside is afraid he's going to get in deep crap, frankly, from my dad growing up, right? It would have been a very ugly scene if that was seen in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's also a part of me, the tender part of me, wanted to be cared for, right, in this way. But I had to stop and challenge myself. Now I was pretty boosted up inside, to be honest. I could feel myself getting angry and irritated as I'm cleaning and putting stuff in the dishwasher and whatever. And you came in twice, and I was like, God, I don't need this test right now. I'm doing my best, because one of the things that I feel that I've learned through our relationship over the last, I don't know, 8-10 years, whatever it's been, is growing up also in my family, and I want to slow down and say that because this might be helpful to a lot of you who've been through a few things. In my family, we didn't get into the whole story. It was, you were assumed guilty. That was it. The whole story and context didn't matter.
Judge and jury already done.
So for me growing up, or in our relationship, it took me a long time to really get to this place of, I got to start thinking about the whole story. Took Andrea a long time to cook this today. She was tired and exhausted by the end of it. I can't expect her to now go clean and this, that, and the other. Can I appreciate what she did? And I started forcing myself to really take in the whole story. And then I had to be honest with me and going, all right, Justin, did you set the expectation of, hey, I just want you to know I don't want to do dishes after this? And did I do that? To be honest, no. And so I had to be accountable to myself of going, hey, man, you somewhat set this up, as a game that's not good. And then I had the reality that Andrea has a tendency to kind of sometimes come back to cleaning up things later at night, like go to bed earlier, or, like you were saying, the next day.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I had to go to walking myself through it. And to be honest, if I'm honest, this is where we're all going through a lot. We can be honest about the time frame of 2025, what it's been like, and you can say the last 5-6 years. Why I say that is, for me, my policy now is I'm probably not going to remember this in an hour from now. So I'm not going to get all tuned up. And my policy is, if I do remember this the next day and it's still really aggravating me, even after I've done this, then I probably need to have a conversation with you. And I told you, just for full transparency, right before we came on here, I said, look, you're going to have to maybe no-sell this, because I didn't go over this with you, because I didn't feel it was something I needed to address with you. So you asked me for an example of being triggered, and this is the most recent thing, and it's the most fresh on my mind.
Welcome to our real life, guys.
But my point is, I had to work through all that. I had to soothe the little boy inside who was activated, remind him we're not back home in New Jersey. We're here. This isn't that big of a deal. And I had to give myself permission to say, dude, you don't have to clean this tonight either. You can take your butt back to the couch or whatever I was doing. You don't have to do this.
Which was my expectation.
And, I had to work through all that, though, in real time. And like I said, 2 test cases. Andrea came into that kitchen twice. And we have a pretty small kitchen. And I was like, and I was like, man, I'm not going to lose it, right? I'm not going to get angry about this, right? Because there's too many variables, and I've got a part in this. But it definitely took, some deep breaths. We call the vagus nerve exercise for, you can forget that another time. But and just doing different things and walking through the story of how did I get here, slowing down. How did I get to the point where I'm now scrubbing these pots at 9:45, 10 o'clock at night, and I'm pissed? Okay, what's the story? And what's the story I'm telling myself? And is that really true? And obviously, after working through that, clearly by the next day, I'd even forgotten about it and moved on till today.
Until I stirred it up
3 days
by
later.
asking him for an example.
So that's an example of,
Mhm.
yes, I've been through significant amounts of therapy and inner healing and all kind of things. But life still has happenings.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that was me going through that in a matter of an hour, hour and a half. Whereas in the past, to be frank, old me, I would have gave Andrea the business. It would have been unfiltered, especially you talking 6, 7 years ago, more, maybe a little more than that now. I would have just went without thinking. And again, I would have got Andrea be like, well, did you think of the story? Like, I was exhausted. I did this. I'd be like, no, I didn't think of that. And so now that's what I'm saying. We grow incrementally. Would I love to tell you, trust and believe me? Would I love to tell you we don't have anxiety ever again, fear and all this? I would love to tell you that because I would love that. But that I don't know if that's realistic for our
Right.
experience on
Yeah.
Earth.
It's called being human.
Right.
So, yeah, so welcome to our real life, including all of the background noises that have been going on the whole time that we've been talking. So,
How about the tree day? I love this thing.
he's very proud of this. But yeah, hopefully that is helping you guys to understand what healed actually looks like. And like we've been saying, set realistic expectations so that you can be content with where you're at and how things are unfolding and not worried that, okay, am I doing something wrong? Because should this still be happening? That was our goal, is to really kind of set, a realistic picture of what it looks like. So if this was helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. We have one more video in this series where we're going to be talking about, if you are understanding parts of self or even attachment theory, like how does that all play out on the other side of doing your work? And so that'll be coming later this month. All right. Thanks for joining us.